The history of Selous Game Reserve in Tanzania. The Selous Game Reserve, located in southern Tanzania, is one of the largest and oldest game reserves in Africa, covering an area of about 50,000 square kilometers, 19,000 square miles. Its history is rich and fascinating, reflecting the conservation efforts and changes in the region over the past century. Here is a brief history of the Selous Game Reserve. Early inhabitants. The area that now comprises the Selous Game Reserve was originally inhabited by various indigenous tribes, including the Madambai and the Rufiji. These tribes had coexisted with the local wildlife for centuries, living off the land and practicing traditional hunting and gathering. Colonial era. In the late 19th century, European colonial powers began to establish control over East Africa. The area that would become the Selous Game Reserve was part of German East Africa during this period. The Germans set up a system of hunting reserves to manage the region's wildlife. Trophy hunting became a popular pastime for European nobility and aristocrats. World War I. During World War I, British forces, in conjunction with their African allies, launched an offensive to dislodge the German colonial administration. The area witnessed significant military action, and the Germans were eventually defeated. Establishment of the Game Reserve. After World War I, the British took control of the region and recognized the need for conservation. In 1922, the Selous Game Reserve was established and named after Frederick Selous, a British big game hunter, soldier, and naturalist who had a deep interest in African wildlife. The reserve was created to protect the diverse flora and fauna of the region and to prevent overexploitation. Conservation and management. Over the years, the Selous Game Reserve was managed with a focus on conservation and sustainable utilization of natural resources. It gained recognition as one of the last strongholds of African wilderness and was declared a UNESCO World Heritage Site in 1982 due to its exceptional biodiversity. Challenges and threats. The Selous Game Reserve has faced various challenges, including poaching, habitat loss, and illegal mining. The elephant population, in particular, has been a target of poachers for their ivory. These challenges have put pressure on the reserve's ecosystems and wildlife populations. UNESCO listing as in danger. In 2014, UNESCO designated the Selous Game Reserve as a World Heritage Site in danger due to the serious threats posed by poaching and illegal activities within the reserve. Efforts have since been made to combat these threats, including the strengthening of anti-poaching measures. Conservation efforts. Various conservation organizations, governments, and local communities have been working together to address the challenges facing the Selous Game Reserve. These efforts include increased funding for anti-poaching operations, community involvement in conservation, and the promotion of ecotourism as a sustainable alternative to hunting. The history of the Selous Game Reserve reflects the broader narrative of conservation in Africa, from the colonial era's trophy hunting to contemporary efforts to protect the region's rich biodiversity. It remains a critical area for wildlife conservation and a testament to the importance of preserving natural ecosystems on the continent. Current conservation efforts. In response to the designation of endangered by UNESCO, the Tanzanian government, in collaboration with international organizations and conservation groups, has implemented various measures to safeguard the Selous Game Reserve. These efforts include enhanced anti-poaching, increased patrols, the use of advanced technology such as drones, and the deployment of armed rangers have helped combat poaching, particularly of elephants and rhinoceroses. Community involvement, engaging local communities and conservation initiatives has been crucial. By offering alternative livelihoods and involving residents in anti-poaching activities, there is a greater chance of curbing poaching and fostering a sense of responsibility for the reserve's protection. Sustainable tourism. The Selous Game Reserve has transitioned from trophy hunting to ecotourism. Visitors come to observe wildlife in their natural habitat, generating income for the reserve and the surrounding communities. Research and monitoring. Ongoing research and monitoring programs help track the populations of various species and assess the effectiveness of conservation efforts. This information is essential for making informed decisions about reserve management. Balance and challenges. Balancing conservation with the needs of local communities and economic development in the region has been an ongoing challenge. Finding ways to mitigate human-wildlife conflicts and improve the living standards of the people living near the reserve is essential for long-term conservation success. UNESCO's in danger status. UNESCO's designation of the Selous Game Reserve as in danger was a stark reminder of the urgent need for action. While there has been progress in recent years, the reserve status remains precarious, and constant vigilance and support are necessary to ensure its protection. The future of the Selous Game Reserve will depend on the continued commitment of the Tanzanian government, conservation organizations, and the international community. Sustained efforts to combat poaching, promote sustainable development, and engage local communities are essential to secure the long-term survival of the reserve's unique ecosystems and wildlife. In conclusion, the history of the Selous Game Reserve reflects the evolution of conservation efforts in Africa, from the colonial era's focus on hunting to the modern-day commitment to preserving biodiversity. While challenges persist, the dedication of those working to protect the reserve offers hope for a future where the Selous Game Reserve can continue to be a vital part of Africa's natural heritage.